Okay, Over the Road magazine article, May 2024, and it's called Don't Blame Your Competition for a Business Model You Picked. I've had the pleasure of visiting several Asian carriers in the last few years. We also have many Asian clients at our firm. I've seen this segment of the industry grow immensely since my wife and I drove over 30 years ago. Our firm could easily be described as multicultural since our employees collectively speak in excess of 8 languages. The cultural differences of our clients are easily distinguishable and usually highly enjoyable. Canada is not a melting pot. It tends to be more a patch quilt of different cultures. There are sometimes entire cities, small cities, that are represented by only 1 or 2 nationalities. It's what sets us apart from the United States. The U.S. expectation historically is to abandon nationalities and become a U.S. citizen. Canada does not expect that of our citizens, hence the pocket or districts. When foreign business practices are brought to North America, it can become a problem. Certainly not insurmountable, but an issue nonetheless. The contrary is also an issue. North American business practices being confronted by foreign practices can also cause discomfort. Let me give you a significant example. Carriers listed on the stock market can oftentimes have access to nearly unlimited capital resources. A large conglomerate of carriers owned by a public entity has additional costs that a small, medium-sized carrier does not have, i.e., multiple administrations, overhead from headquarters, etc. Therefore, there can be significant diseconomies of scale when this business model is utilized. Carrier conglomerates who have $30 to $40+ million headquarters with accompanying overhead costs cause a disproportional top-heavy cost structure. Therefore, in an economic downturn, large carrier or conglomerates' profits can oftentimes be hit the hardest. Contrarily, I've seen carriers operated out of a basement, wife doing administration, husband dispatching 25 to 40 trucks. Operationally, this business model is insanely efficient compared to the North American concrete, brass, glass, and marble expectations. The difference is often double-digit contributions to the bottom line. Similar in nature to these efficiencies is the mindset of human resource management. The Asian business model is hyper-entrepreneurial in nature, not just from management of a business, but from employees as well. I admire the independent attitude of the Asian market has towards government. If we can find a way to remove government from our lives, we will. This leads us to the topic of incorporated drivers again. Though my points in the past are fairly well stated, it will be most likely decided by politics and courts, not by press or Canada Revenue Agency. The argument of its net effect on the industry is highly debatable. Yet, there is a recent quote by Alan Bedard, CEO of TFI International. Our Canadian businesses will shrink absolutely because of Driver Inc. He said, people who lose jobs, good paying jobs at TFI because of that Driver Inc. unfair competition. Alan Bedard, Chairman and CEO of TFI International, an article written by Christopher Reynolds, The Canadian Press, April 26th, 2024. I contend once again that any loss of jobs will have little direct origin in the incorporated driver controversy. As my podcast described, the competitive advantage ascribed as is an illusion at best, non-existent most probable. First of all, what rates are being compared between the two systems? I know drivers who are driving for 35 cents per mile. some for 45 cents per mile, some 55, and others for even more. Who is being paid what? If conventional drivers get paid 45 cents per mile and incorporated drivers get paid 50 cents per mile, there is zero difference competitively. If they both get paid the same rates, which is yet to be determined, the benefit may still be irrelevant. The missing payroll information and relative comparison makes the argument indefensible. It's an argument without data. At highest calculation, non-payment of CPP, EI, etc. represents 9 to 10% of payroll, both employer and employee. And payroll represents only about 35% of freight costs, therefore only about 3 to 3.5% maximum. We must also remember that CPP and EI are technically not taxes. They are mandatory contributory programs. If the driver doesn't contribute, they don't get benefit. If they want to pay it themselves rather than having their employer pay it, the net result is a voluntary agreement to be paid less. Doesn't supply and demand determine what an employer pays an employee? Isn't employee wages a part of the free market system? Does the North American model assume that all drivers should receive the same rate of pay? Can the industry legislate supply and demand of the free market like that? The Vancouver Port is trying to legislate that all drivers be paid the same rate. Will that be the rate every driver or operator will be paid across Canada? This discussion opens a meritocracy can of worms that North American carriers may not wish to open. Some business models are far too top-heavy to survive competition with an efficient one. If supply and demand is allowed to operate freely, it will squeeze out the inefficient businesses. My money is on the non-North American models. They tend to at least appear much more cost-effective and fiscally humble. Though admittedly, without looking at their statements, it's inconclusive to confirm. All that said, it's still my opinion that if people will lose jobs, it will most likely be because of administrative overhead at a North American model carriers. All that said, it's still my opinion that if people will lose jobs, it will most likely be because administrative overhead at a North American model carriers was too high to sustain itself during a prolonged industry downturn. Driver Inc. discussion is a red herring. All right. Again, I dabbled into the Driver Inc. model and trying to make a point realistically that if you take a look at all the magazines that are out there and they sooner or later ask some trucking association, some trucking company owner and the like what they think about the industry, man, they gravitate to Driver Inc. like there is nothing else out there. Realistically, that is it is really unfair, and it's unfair because it's not proper use of really the data that's out there. And they're trying to divert, in my opinion, they're trying to divert their own inefficiencies and expose something that has almost no net effect on the bottom line, very, very little, but where the real savings comes from is lowering their overhead costs. I've been to many Asian trucking company head offices, and without a doubt, their office is very practical. It is cost effective. They work an awful lot. And if all you have to do is cut out $40 to $50 million head office fees, generally speaking, administration is 10, 12, sometimes 13%. And all you have to do is cut out, you could easily cut out 2/3 of it by being more practical and reasonable with your expenses. And you already exceed or even double the exaggerated impact potentially of Driver Inc. The other thing has to do with probably victimization of the drivers. And if I was a truck driver, I would never use Driver Inc. Primarily because they better pay me extra for that. They better pay me 50 cents when everybody else is getting 45 cents, because I got to cover the cost of Canada Pension Plan and the like, and workers' compensation or WSIB in Ontario, whatever the situation. They better cover the costs of that. If they're just saying, "Oh, look at all this gross income that you get, and you handle the taxes," it's an illusion to somebody who doesn't have full understanding of the Canadian tax system, because you got to pay your taxes later on, and that's really unfair. And I would never use Driver Inc. But I am sympathetic to individuals who try to get government out of their life. I'm not sympathetic for individuals who cheat on their taxes, okay? And by cheating on their taxes, I'm referring to income tax, not Canada Pension Plan or unemployment, because those are too contributory. And if you don't contribute, you don't get it. So why do I have to contribute to something that if I don't want the benefit for, I don't need it or whatever? Why am I contributing to it? That's a law that is something maybe we should investigate, so that maybe there should, in order to level the playing field, let's make Canada Pension Plan and EI voluntary, so that truck drivers or anybody else, let's say they say, you know what, I don't want you to take off EI and CPP. Would that level the playing field? According to a lot of people's perspective of Driver Inc., I guess it would be, because that's your 8, 9%, 10%. But realistically, it's not a material factor. I think it's a diversion. I think they're trying to, don't look at our expenses over here because it's really high. We want to point our fingers at somebody else so nobody looks at us. That and the more people who are having a tough time, like the more carriers out there are having a tough time making it, they don't want to look at their bottom line. They don't want to look at their administration fees, or maybe take a look at how much they pay their managers or senior managers. Maybe that's maybe hitting a little bit below the belt, but realistically, if you take a look at some very frugal carriers out there that maybe utilize Driver Inc., they at the same time, they are not paying their senior managers 6 figures. And if they are just slightly above 6 figures, it's not $250,000, $300,000 in a year, generally speaking. Most of them are very frugal. They're conservative in their financial management. And that is not the mentality of some of these very large companies. If you're a driver, you're bumping down the road, and you're working for a company that is, I would say, I guess, North American minded. Very fancy head office, very fancy yard, nice up perks there, aren't you? You really like it, you know. I think we all have to understand that there's a cost for that perk. There's a cost associated with that prestige. Prestige is very expensive. That's for sure. I'll give you. I'm sorry for using my business as an example, but we have three physical offices: Steinbeck, Manitoba, Winnipeg, Manitoba, and Winkler, Manitoba. But we also have satellite offices in Surrey, Calgary, Brandon, and we have other locations where individuals work as well. We have our software. We've developed our own software so that people can actually work remotely. Now, one of the reasons why I chose to develop our own software so that we can work remotely is so that we can keep our costs down. Right now, we charge our owner-operators who are digital clients $200 a month plus taxes. That's actually quite efficient, and I'm bound to determine not to raise that. If I raise that fee from $200 above that, there's some very significant events that are happening that I have no choice to do that. We do charge another rate for individuals who are not paperless, and they bring in a box of paper at the end of a quarter or a month or something like that. And I think we charge $125 a month plus taxes for that. There's a little bit more processing involved in that. Now, my business model is remote because it can be done elsewhere. It's not focused on brick and mortar. And in my opinion, the future, 3, 5, 8 years from now, 10 years from now, the brick and mortar accounting firms, so to speak, are not going to be able to compete with the digital remote location offices. Because first of all, the trucking industry is transient. You really don't know. Oftentimes, if you're freeboarding, especially, you don't know in 24 hours whether you're going to be east or west or where you're going to be. And people travel. That's your job. Your job is to travel. And to have an accountant being in a brick and mortar, a stationary place, you have to wait until you get to that location in order to get any work done. And that's very inefficient in a business model. It's very, you have a spurt of work and then you have nothing. It's people are sitting around doing nothing. Spurt of work and then nothing doing so is very inefficient in productivity wise. And going digital, we pretty much had to do that so that we have clients in remote places in Canada that basically all they do is just scan and zip it out to us, and we can keep working all the time because we're not dependent on somebody driving to our location. And that's where the entire trucking industry, especially in my opinion, an accounting industry, that's where the entire industry is going. If I would start opening up offices, brick and mortar, and strip malls and stuff like that all over the place, I'm now having to buy or rent, lease locations and stuff like that, have to hire people, put them in there and try and be efficient with them, the traffic coming in and stuff like this. My rates would go higher than $200 without a doubt. Even if I would double my my revenue from new clients or whatever like that, the risk factors are just far too great to open up a brick and mortar office somewhere else in Canada. That is something that, in my opinion, I'm committed to, that we are going to have individuals who, when you drive your truck, that's when you should be doing your business work. Why are you, when you go home, now you have to sit at a desk and do all of this and do all of that and spend 2, 3, 5 hours or something like that now doing your business work? That's not where your business should be done. Your business should be done in your truck. Once you're out of hours, okay, now we're going to take some pictures of your paperwork and send it off, and you stay on top of everything while you're out on the road. That's my understanding of where the industry should handle, how they should handle their paperwork. I'm talking to you, owner-operators or independent operators in Canada. Your mindset should not be a physical location. Your mindset should be distance. And that means when for instance, your year end is done, do you have to, we all both sit and wait around for you to get to our office and sit down? No. We're going to do that by FaceTime, by some sort of audio video that, okay, you're sitting there, you're out of hours, you put your phone or your iPad on your dashboard, and now you go through all of the information. Well, what's the effect of this? What's the effect of that? How's this? What taxes are we talking about? You do it by distance, and you don't have to worry about travel. And that saves you time and money because you don't have to travel around anywhere. It's out of, you deal with it, it's off your plate. And that's the future of trucking. And that's why we went digital. And we're going more and more digital. And basically, all communication will be done through our app. All interaction will be done through our app. And realistically, that's the future, not just of trucking, though trucking is probably the best example for going paperless and going for not a remote office, but where we Skype, video Skype, Zoom, whatever, are meeting together, and we can complete everything. We send you out all the forms to sign. You sign it on your phone. It's amazing what you can all get done, and you can understand everything basically through a distance. You don't have to be eye to eye and face to face, though it is nice. I love talking to drivers. I would love to talk to hundreds of drivers just from my office, and maybe someday I would, but it's not going to be necessarily one-on-one because you can only talk to so many. But realistically, I can do that for enjoyment, but for business, it should be private, encrypted from your phone straight to us. It's a private conversation, and all the documents are encrypted and private, and realistically, you can get everything done while you're out on the road. And that's my goal. And we've succeeded in a great deal of stuff already. I would say probably 2/3, anywhere maybe half to 2/3 of our clients don't actually come into our office anymore. You do a few years of your year-end meetings and the like out on the road, or a few meetings. You understand the system, you understand the questions, and once you do that, well, you're out on the road. You know what's coming. After you answer those 4, 5, 6 questions, you're all done. You sign everything up, and it's done. You don't need to be held your hand every single year to do that. And realistically, that keeps the cost down. And if that's want to keep everything as cost effective as possible. I don't want brass and a 10-story building or something like everybody all congregating in one location and the like. Realistically, if our goal is to have thousands of operators all across Canada use our system, and whether their account manager is in Winnipeg or Toronto or Halifax or Prince George, it really doesn't make any difference. With technology nowadays, you get to know them digitally, and realistically, it's a business environment that you can trust, that it's not just, it's encrypted, and it's being done properly. It's that's the future of trucking, and realistically, that's what this particular model, for instance, is going to be the most cost-effective model out there when it comes to doing personal taxes, especially for independent operators, for instance. And there may very well be other accountants out there who completely disagree with me. And so they go out and you can go to their office if you like, and see all of the beautiful carpet and the brass and glass and wonderful marble that they may have. But you're paying for it, And realistically, do you want to provide somebody else that luxury just so that you can maybe have bragging rights? I'm not interested in bragging for my brass and glass and stuff like that. I want to save you money. And I want to make a living doing it, and I do well do it. I want to save tens of thousands of operators in Canada millions upon millions of dollars in income tax. That's my goal. And I don't believe I can do it if I just open up offices all across Canada. I want to keep the cost down for you and be effective for you. Anyway, all of this having to do with different business models, Driver Inc. and the like. Driver Inc. is just, I think it's a fad that'll probably go away within probably 4 or 5 years once the economy starts picking up again. People start, there's already a little bit of a turnover at people who are doing Driver Inc. There's a lot of people who are stating, for instance, that they're hiring people. They want to hire somebody, and they say, "Oh, do you pay driver? Will you pay my corporation rather than me personally?" No, I can't do that. Well, that means, first of all, just because they applied at that new place, that means they're leaving somebody who was paying Driver Inc. And realistically, that means the model is starting to crack and fall apart already because they're not loyal anymore, because you can't make a living somewhere. There does come a point in time when an individual or a company is too cheap, and they are not paying enough to do the maintenance on a truck, for instance. That's pretty bad. And that is a much bigger issue, I think, than Driver Inc. When you put people in a never plan, because the contract that you have for them is basically at best a break even. That's pretty bad. I'm talking about independent operators here, so not drivers, but there's carriers with horrendous independent operators or carrier contracts, and guys are starving like crazy because when the economy goes down, well, okay, we'll just let the operators stay at home because we'd rather keep our guys going than them, and that's more driver abuse than Driver Inc. is. And well, maybe it's about the same in principle or so, but realistically, it's tight all around, and everybody's suffering through low freight rates, and sometimes you can do some things with volume but I personally think that it's been around middle of 2025. I think it's going to start pick up again. So, but that's just my belief. What's happening, because the oil industry is going to start booming again in the next 2 to 3 years, majorly. And that has such profound impact on all industries, not just one, and not just the oil industry, but everything. It's like a domino effect in a good way. So rates will come up. But anyway, that's my 2 cents worth about the industry. And other than that, I'll tell you, have a great day. Bye-bye.